Deluxe Titler 3D lets you create some different kind of letters with a relative amount of texture on top of them. So I'll show you how it works in just a second, but you have the capability to adjust essentially what's called the bevel level. So here's a bevel with a slight, you can see between the letter and the outside edge is a portion of the text that has a pattern in it. And there's 7 different variables for adjusting how much of that bevel sits. Now this is a render hog, this software. Okay, it is render intensive. For somebody that needs or wants that capability, it's nice to know it's right in your Casablanca. But again, it's not. If I had an Avio, you'd have a lot of time on your hands. Let's put it that way. Just because it's render intensive and it takes a lot of time to process and create the capabilities. So my favorites are the intrude and extrude. It actually looks like it's embossed or pressed inside of there. Bless you.
Which program is this?
Deluxe Titler 3D. Okay. Well, gee, that's nice, Chet, but what does that look like in real life? Okay. So let's go ahead and take a clip here. I have this piece of a Yellowstone wildflower, and what I did in creating my deluxe title, I selected the color of the petal, and that became the color of my text in this particular example. Now, you are seeing a motion path that flew in. It's a lot like Picture-in-Picture Studio 3D. So where we can take this image up here, and we launch Deluxe Titler 3D. And so there's Chet's Vacation. Okay? And you can adjust the style, the color, how much of a 3D appearance there is on top of that. There's actually 3-point lighting for a key fill and a backlight for as the animation moves through how much of the light exists there. And then you have the capability to, as you can see, this is what they call a small circle, but they have them all archived as well. So I can load it. It's going to come from the left and go to the center. So you can see the variable. And the neat part about that is you can then click on that, insert a new key point, okay, and modify that point.
So the starting point's right where that.
Starting point is left of the screen. That's correct.
Okay.
So off screen over here, and you can adjust that. So again, for the person that needs it, it's nice to know the system is there. Take it one step further. I took that little piece and took this clip. This is part of the Home Movie Essentials from Digital Hotcakes, complete with sound. And I used Picture-in-Picture Studio and put that image inside of the finished piece. In fact, that's my little logo that I play with. I took that clip from Home Movie Essentials, and I took Border X, and I created a very simple title using the standard title menu with multiple pages. I put the film effect on it to change the color and make it shake and jitter, and then I used Picture-in-Picture Studio to put it inside of a piece that kind of made my little logo on the films that I share with the people at our school. So, and just by using the the layer function, you can put that all back together.
Will your hotcakes DVD only work in the Cron, or do you play it on the DVD?
The digital hotcakes come. Each package comes as both an AVI and as an MLV file, so it'll work in any computer that has the access to decode those two particular file formats. So it won't work in a standard DVD player, but it will work in a computer or a Casablanca.
How much the pack on that they said hotcakes?
I'm sorry?
How much be?
That's digital hotcakes. That's called Home Movie Essentials. And each disc has somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 different clips. So, and I've got a price list here. I can look it up if somebody wants a specific product. They have 3 or 4 that deal with weddings, and one of the weddings also includes quinceañeras for people doing that kind of work. There's also travel There's one on just holidays, which is nice. So they've got some more new ones coming out in there. They call them HME, or Home Movie Essentials. I think it's kind of a cheesy name because I think they're because a lot of professionals say, "Well, that's for home movies," but I mean some of the pieces are really, really attractive for the right purpose.
So with the disc transfer, you can theoretically get third-party stuff that was in the AVI2 format.
That's correct. There are a couple of other providers that are doing stuff for AVI. One is somebody came up with it, shared it like 2 weeks ago. Studio One is a company that does their motion graphics and saves them as AVI files, and even says on their website, "Will work with Casablanca systems."
So these are available on AVI, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not DV format.
They're both. They make them available for both. I think it's an additional $10 for the mini DV tape because of the tape costs. Questions, comments, thoughts? Any other kind of rogue questions about titles? Okay. All right. Let's do this. Let's go ahead and take a quick break. Again, about 6.5 minutes, and I'll try to be judicious. So it's now 2 o'clock. At 2:06:30, we'll reconvene. Let me go back here. Let's say you've got this finished piece here with your little logo screen, and you wanted to use that in a different project. Okay, I can take that and use the clipboard. Okay, and the clipboard is included on all the operating systems. Now, if you're on the Avio, to have clipboard, you have to have Avio Pro or Pro Pack. Okay, and Pro Pack gives you a number of features. It gives you 10 projects instead of 3. It gives you 6 audio tracks instead of 3. It just gives you some additional capabilities that are, it would be, if I had an Avio, that'd be the first thing I looked at in installing Pro Pack if I didn't already have it. So I click on the clipboard, and then I'm saving this scene to the clipboard. So I click OK, and now it's put that scene in temporary memory. And it's there until the machine shuts off. Then I go over to a different project and go to some place in the scene bin. Could be in the middle, wherever. Then I go back to find that clipboard. This time I'm taking something from the clipboard and putting it into this project. And this is the piece I want, so I click OK. And there it is. And so in that capacity, you can, what some people have done is they've taken one of their projects, like project number 10, and made that their stock footage bin. They save important clips out between that system, both audio and video.
The clipboard is dependent upon currently live project that will not save after you shut down.
That is correct. Yes. It's temporary memory only. Only while the machine's active and live. That is correct. Yeah, so it's not a, I would not see it as an archiving tool, but a transferring tool. A means to transfer between different projects.
If you want to keep it, you archive it.
Right.
Now we have logos and stuff like that we use.
Yes. Yeah, perfect application.
Keeping usually bin number 10 too.
Right. Now you can,
You've done it with audio too.
yes. Yeah, a lot of people do that with audio too.
A6, you can put more than one scene in there at a time.
Yes.
In A6, so otherwise,
Questions here? Okay. Trying to remember if there's one other thing I want to show before we get to audio. I think the answer is no. Actually, yes. It's a good time to just show you Quadcam really quick. A couple people asked me at the break today, this thing called Quadcam. If you videotape an event, whatever it is, and use 2, 3, or 4 cameras for that event, Quadcam is a lifesaver. I'm going to clean off my storyboard, keeping all the scenes in the scene bin. And note that I have, let's get this moved over here. I have 2 different scenes of the wedding vows from 2 different cameras. We have our kind of wider shot camera, it looks like it was up in the balcony, and one that was on the left side looking at the bride because it's all about the bride. So, Quadcam is add-on software. Once you launch Quadcam, there's two capabilities. It is actually designed to use the time code that is recorded on the tape from the DV camera and brought in via FireWire. There are a small percentage of our customers who are using that. The greater majority are manually syncing the cameras and bringing them into Quadcam. There are a couple limitations with the Smart Sync, which is the auto synchronization capability, and that is you have to do it within 12 hours. The camera's clocks internally need to be set accurately before the broadcast, before you record the program initially. And there has been some issues between different camera manufacturers. So, as I've learned in the last couple years, FireWire is not all created equal. There's about 95% of the FireWire signal that is universal, and the other 5% each manufacturer gets a little bit to play with in the sandbox. That's why when you plug a camera into your Casablanca, it says who the manufacturer is. It's a specific identifier, and they know who it is. Unfortunately, us friendly manufacturers can't always play nicely together in the same pool, and so there's this little slight variation that differs between us. So when I use Quadcam, and my recommendation is to shoot your event with 2, 3, or 4 cameras, and then bring them back and manually synchronize. I'm going to show you what I mean by that. Let's say you have a base camera that's in the back of the church, cathedral, in the back of the performance hall, the theater, wherever it is, and then you have 1 or 2 cameras getting some, cross-angle shots. I would keep those additional cameras rolling through the whole event, even if you don't plan on using any of the footage from those except for a couple of key moments. Because what that does is it establishes a continuous time roll on all 3 events so that they're going to continue to play through each other. Okay? What I would do then is I would go here. In fact, I did this on a school play back in December. I've been, showing parts of Quadcam for about 3 years now since it was developed, and done it in lots of little tiny projects and such. But I got my first real taste of a full production in December. I did my son's school's play. They did a version of Alice in Wonderland, and I shot it on 2 cameras. I had one wide shot that covered the whole stage, and then I had my camera there, and I essentially was just doing close-ups for the cutaway. So I would get, when the main characters would come in, I could go in and do a close-up of them. So I watched the play in 2 performances before I videotaped it, so I get an idea of the entrances and exits, and then I recorded on the final night. And it was a joy to use Quadcam, because I've been saying about what a joy it is. It has been for me in small form, but to use it for long form, to cut through this performance and then just add transitions between them, and it was. Anybody else out here using Quadcam? No? So, thank you. I think the only way that people could really appreciate the value of Quadcam is if they've done it the other way, or if you've ever live switched an event. Because back at the school, we used to have to take like 3 cameras out, connect the video cables, connect the Genlock cables to the mixer, time the cameras so that the colors were all balanced and all this stuff, and the cables and the wires and the PL tracks. And then, I think those people have a full appreciation of the value of Quadcam, being able to do it all in post. So the cameras, if you're using Quadcam, you don't have to have any connectivity between the cameras at all. You'd want to work out some level of collaboration, certainly, and say, you're our cover cam, lock it down, you don't move. You don't move, And then the other ones, you focus on this part of the stage or this actor. You work it out however you see fit, professionals here. But what I would do is then to synchronize and get both cameras, or 3 or all 4 cameras trimmed to the same event, what I would do is go into the trim menu and then find a particular event. I'll bloom on this camera. Do I have my audio up? So like right when the music ends, this is the wide shot as it's focusing. Maybe right when this graphic started appearing, there's the frame it appears and the frame right before it. Okay? So I know that this is at 58:47. Okay? Then I could say, okay, I'm going to go back 59:47. So I would figure out how far I needed to go back to begin the performance and set up all 2, 3, or 4 cameras at that same event, and then subtract that same amount of time, or add that same amount of time, so that all of my sources are beginning at the same point in time. And then it's simply a matter of this. I'm going to go back to this short project to show you how quick and easy it is to build it. It's amazing. And even with just a 2-camera shoot, it's phenomenal. So I'm going to launch Quadcam, which is at the top of your special menu. I'm not going to use the auto sync. I'm just using the regular, manually timed. Okay, now when you get Quadcam, it looks like this. Your 4 cameras. The background is key. The audio comes from your background camera. So for me, a lot of times that would be the one in the back of the hall that's maybe getting house audio. I did it kind of different. Just because of the cameras I had available, my Sony A1U has XLR inputs, and I can take either a line level or mic level input. So I happened to take house audio into my camera, and the other, it was an older Canon GL1 that didn't have that capability right on the deck. So even though that was my wide shot, I made that as the insert camera. So I started off on the insert camera and came back and forth to the background. But the audio will come from your background source. Okay, we're going to choose a scene, and let's use our wide shot. And then I'm going to choose a source for this camera. They've already been timed. And you see as I click back and forth between the scenes, it highlights this button up here. That essentially is the camera that's live to the audience at a given time. Okay? You can also use this power key thing by clicking on the space bar, the numeral 1 key, the numeral 2, 3, and okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click playback. You're going to see these move along, and you're going to hear the audio from camera 1. It's going to look jerky. That's okay. It's what we call a proxy preview. It's using RAM to simulate the picture. It's not the finished quality version. Don't let your client see how easy it is.
Or tell them, because I made
Right.
a mistake.
And then-
It's like,
Oh, front door. I pause the work, go get my door, get the FedEx package, you know. Have my dinner break. Come back, resume my work.
What was that with the pauses for, Chet? Sorry. Okay.
That's great.
Again, this is not just weddings. Think plays, recitals, concerts. So, got my wild tracks. Now that the camera's stabilized, I can go back to that shot. Okay. Now it says, should I continue? And watch what it did. It created the storyboard for me.
So you're switching it live.
You're switching it in post.
Post, not live.
So when you would put dissolves between those, would that screw you up?
No.
No.
This is the cool part. I mean, the way,
Thunder away.
yeah, the way Casablanca has been, you're right. That's totally, well, wait a minute. That's going to shift things around. But here's what the developers did, which is really cool. When I click on range, check this out. They brought in 3 seconds of additional footage of that scene to allow you to put a transition in there and retain the synchronicity. Plus, here's the next good part. Okay? I know, isn't that amazing? Really, because some people are like, oh, that's nice. But other people who have done this go, you have no idea. So, here's the trim. Okay, now, and this applies to your other capabilities. Trim lets me trim the scene that I've got inserted while I'm watching the base footage.
Oh.
Trim E lets me trim the scene I have inserted while watching the scene I have inserted. The reason why you want to do that, sometimes you're inserting a shot to cover up like somebody walking in front of the camera or out of focus shot. Or sometimes the other reason why I might want to do this is maybe the camera was not in focus yet when they went in for a close-up and I cut too soon. That's the beauty of Quadcam. I can go back now and I have 3 seconds to play with. So I can extend it a little bit more so I get the bride looking up. Where before when I cut it myself, I was a little bit too quick or too slow. So you can make those fine-tune adjustments and it still keeps it locked in sync.
But my question to you, when you trim that, do you only have to do, like, say you got to go back 8 seconds. Can you still just go back 8 seconds?
You can only go back 3 seconds.
3?
There's a handle of 3 additional seconds.
Okay.
You'd have to re-trim it in Quadcam if it was that substantial of a piece. There are other ways, though. The other thing that you can do, which is cool, is see how right now down here this whole storyboard was created from these two clips. Okay, and this separate piece does not exist until you say search. Okay, and it will recreate it. So you can get in there, and now that only pulls the data here, not the extra 3 seconds. But the cool thing is I can come back here and, as we were talking, there's my crossfade. So you can throw your transitions and everything else that you're used to.
So Chet, you only can do like 3-second transitions?
3 seconds would be the longest transition you could do in Quadcam. That's correct.
If your second clip on your Quadcam can't measure up to the background clip, is your Quadcam not usable then?
Oh, if different length?
Just say your background's going, but then your movable cameraman accidentally turns it off or needs to put in a new tape.
There's two answers to that question. Okay. The first answer is if you're using manually sync, like I did here, you would have continuity until that point in time when your camera person turned off his or her camera. So like if she had the camera rolling for the first 25 minutes and then the event still went for another 10 and she powered down or had a camera problem, your first 25 minutes would be fine. But then when it stopped recording, then and then when maybe she got the camera back, switched cameras, whatever, you'd have that gap of time. What if it was me and that was a situation? I would go ahead and do my mix in Quadcam, make sure I was totally happy with it, make a scene of it, and then bring in my other piece and manually sync it to fit in the other one, and then join those two together.
Okay.
The other way is if you're using the Smart Sync, okay, this capability here, it works, though it's kind of dicey. Some folks have modest success with it. It's designed such that when all the factors of the universe are in perfect alignment, when that person turns off their camera, it will show up as a black screen during the time that camera was not on, and when it powers up, it would come back at the moment in time that the event occurred as well.
That's how the Quadcam shows it?
Yeah. Yeah, so it would show up as a dark screen, meaning inactive, but it would still roll, and then when it came back up, yeah.
Does Casablanca, can it read time code?
No, it's accessing, well, yes and no. It's not reading SMPTE time code, which is what people talk about when they talk about time code, but it's reading DV time code, which comes from every video camera, DV video camera. And that's the same timing information that Candy talked about earlier.
You can lock cameras and use it, like you're using multi-camera shoots.
Right, but usually cameras are not gen-locked for, well,
they are.
Well, yeah, if you're going to use an EDL, though. Yeah.
Shooting with each one, we shot a 4-camera shoot with, but we were recording everything, and then what we were doing is going back in post and editing it.
Right.
Editing it, so everything was through time code.
Right. If you've got a time code reader on that unit, what I would do is I would trim the footage so that they all began at a similar point, and then load it into Casablanca, and then they're going to be perfectly synchronized. So there is a way to use the SMPTE time code and bring it into Quadcam then.
What's that?
Yes. Yes.
A flash from a still camera is even easier. Yeah.
Yeah, that's only 2D.
Yeah.
Yes.
A suggestion from somebody that uses Quadcam all the time, if your project is of any length, sync it up and then split it out to like 5-minute sections, because to actually use Quadcam for an hour production is very difficult.
Yes, it is.
So if you do it section by section, it works a lot easier.
Good idea.
And if you have to make changes, you can make them within that 5-minute section a lot easier.
Okay. So what Candy's amplify what Candy's suggesting? Let's say these were 2-hour-long clips. Okay. You would sync them up, and then I'm going to split them up. Okay, so I'm going to split them up into 10-minute pieces. So we're using 10 seconds per
It
minute.
has to be exactly the same amount of
Okay.
time.
So I'd split that one, and then you'd split the other piece, and so that you have all these components. And as long as you organize them well and have them labeled accordingly, you can just bring them up, and you're just choosing smaller bits to work with and succeed and move along the scale instead of a one longer project.
Yeah, one of the things I use Quadcam quite a bit for weddings and ceremonies, but exactly right, especially with ceremonies that run 40 minutes long. That's the best thing to do is chop it up, because if you do see something that's off on the camera, you can adjust it right there, and it's a lot quicker and a lot easier.
Good idea.
And you can adjust everything else to it.
Yeah. Also, Quadcam doesn't actually have to be used with all cameras shot from the same event. If you've got B-roll that you want to insert at any point in time as one of the background shots, it's still great for that as well.
Good idea.
Instead of inserting it?
Well, it's basic insert editing anyway.
Yeah.
So you can use anything as your, back. Your background is your main camera. So then cam 1 can be like the second camera at the event. Cam 2 can be the third camera at the event. And then cam 4, or whatever it is on the screen there, can be any generic B-roll that you might have that you might want to add into it. Audience shots or whatever, scenery or whatever.
What's important to note, even though we've mixed in Quadcam, notice that you have a standard Casablanca storyboard. Anything you've done previously, titles, I can insert another shot, a close-up of something that's not from any part of this. Any of that is accessible. Okay. Now I'm going to, before the day gets away, I'm going to pass around my attractive little paper here, and I forgot my clipboard. It says name and email address. Okay, so please put your first and last name and then your email address that you want this thing to go to. And I promise I don't sell your email address to third-party people or military recruiters or anything like that. When you put your email address, here's what I'm going to ask, just because I did this 2 weeks ago in Dallas and it was still hard to read some email addresses. And if I can't read your email address, I can't get my stuff to you. Okay? So, when you pass the paper on to the person next to you, please ask them to verify that they can read your email address. Okay? It's just like we're copywriters for each other. And if they say, is that an O or an E, then you can get it corrected and you'll get my stuff. Okay? So this is so that you get my stuff, is all. So just put your name, first name, last name, and email address. Now I want to make sure, too, I leave time. What is the nature of the other question you wanted to ask?
Sharpen.
Okay.
What does it do?
It's like the sharp.
Let me phrase it a different way.
Okay.
I do an awful lot of copying of slides and converting them over to DVDs.
Okay.
And I have a lot of scenes in which the focus isn't particularly good. It doesn't seem to help that. Is it
Yeah.
going to?
A modest amount, but yeah, on something that started off being defocused is, yeah, put it in a border, make it look really tiny.
To sharpen the focus. Is that correct?
It helps to, yeah, it helps to sharpen the focus, but you can't, that's the old, you can't get something from nothing. It is less of a soft effect and a sharper effect is kind of what some people say is a clinical video appearance rather than a film look. It goes more towards higher video than a film look. So, yeah, unfortunately there isn't too much that you can do apart from embellish it and maybe use those as title screens. Or.
I've been fairly successful in correcting over exposure and underexposure on these slides, which there's an awful lot of them usually. But the sharpening was the one that I was hoping to have more benefit from, or was there another program that could do a better job of sharpening up a poor focus?
Yeah.
You know of another program that's better?
No, I don't.
It's pretty hard to create something that was never there.
You're right. That's exactly correct. So, yeah. It would be, for me, it would be the decision of, did the client require that I'm using these particular slides, or did the client give me artistic license to determine which of these shots that are included will best fit my project? And that's something really that some of our customers have worked into a contract with their clients up front. Say, do you want me to use every single photo that's in here, or do I have the right to make Candy does a lot. You're smiling. Tell me about
I'm smiling because just a few weeks ago, I don't know if anybody watches a program that's on Sunday nights on ABC called Brothers and Sisters, but they were doing a photo video montage tribute to the mother who was turning 50 or 60 or something. And one of the daughters accidentally got distracted shooting her statement to her mother. Her and her husband started making out on the couch, and it got quite heated, and then they got distracted when they sent off the tapes to the editor, and the editor called and said, "Do you want everything included?" And they said, "Oh, yeah. And they included them making love on the couch in her tribute video. So yes, sometimes you need to have communication with your client as to what you want to include or not.
By the way, can I see some of those outtakes here?
There was one actually that I did too. It was supposed to reception, and they were doing a bouquet toss, and the two girls who caught it started fighting. Like literally.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, they were just going crazy. So right there, you know, you're not going to put that in. So I went up to the bride and I said, "You don't want that in?" "Yeah, I do." I said, "Well, are you sure?" She goes, "Yeah, that's fine. Just put it in." So I put it in. I gave it to her, you know, when it was edited, and then her mother phones me up and says, "I want that out." So it's good to communicate with the family also.
Oh jeez. Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah.
That's right. Special version.
Or the 6 film is
Oh.
answer that gentleman's question, there are some software, risk-fit software to take out scratches if it holds slides. You don't listen here now, but you automatically take out scratches and mildew spots and things like that. But it makes it a little bit fuzzier, but just instantly.
Oh. Yeah, David.
It's another topic, but it sort of relates a little bit to Quadcam because it's about inserting. I have a whole scene and it's total insert, and then I start putting dissolves between it, and what ends up happening, I get little bits and pieces of the older video behind it because I know what's going on, but is there any way to solve that problem?
The only true and tried way is to make scenes of the inserted pieces. Yeah. That's been a request for an address in a subsequent OS version too, how we deal with inserts better. So, unfortunately...
Multiple inserts into one scene?
Yeah, one after the other,
Right.
and then you do a dissolve between each of them,
Right.
and you're getting a little clip of the next shot.
But what I found too, Chet, on that is you actually look in the preview when it's done, and it's up on the storyboard, it goes through, and you get little snips of the other one. If you go into, if you put that all into one scene, and put it down below, you know how you put it all in one scene?
Right.
Compress it all, I guess, and throw it down, it fixes it.
Okay. So when you make a scene of it and you're layering it, then it's all
Put it into one,
new code.
and all of a sudden it fixes it. Oh, really? Yeah. But compressed into one scene. Because I had that problem too.
Okay.
Oh my God, it's going to get out by tonight.
Ah.
It's like, so I threw it down to one scene, and it was like, hey, it's fixed.
Oh.
With the transitions and everything. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Neat.
Yeah.
Well, now we step into audio. Okay. And I'm going to show you a little portion of something, and then show you. This is editing to the beat, and I use this. This is a feature in SmartEdit 5 that lets you cut content to your own artistic ear or lack thereof, and then kind of automatically, as it were, clip the video. And this is just a little my son's soccer video that I made for their fall season. I happen to use Deluxe Titler 3D for the titles. A little over the top, but 8-year-old soccer.
They loved it, right?
That's right. So what I wanted to do is just a little cut to the beat with as my son playing goalie. And here I wanted to introduce each player. So we've got a little static shot of each kid, and then I use the lettering that you saw a little earlier on. So these are just straight cut shots from a high-res JPEG camera, and brought in with titles. Now, the other piece that I chose to do on this photo montage, we're going to get in Photo Studio 2 in a few minutes after audio, but although these are static shots with audio, and I apologize, I should have brought my little audio amplifier, is if you listen carefully, I took game footage, the audio from the game, and if you listen carefully, you can hear the game. And so, it's not a big deal, thank you, but it's just that kind of you are there feeling. Even if you're using still shots, it gives you that total appearance that you're really, Yeah. Oh, thanks.
No, the power's on it.
Did anybody not get to see the Liberty who wanted to see it?
I just didn't want you to run your battery down.
I love the slogan one of our customers suggested. Give me liberty and give me high def. Well. Anyway, okay. So enough of that.
Question, Chet?
How'd you bring in the audio from the game? What was your...
Great question. Next question. No. Yes. Yeah, what I did is, let me see if I've got that piece here. I don't know if I've got the original clip, but let's say it was, well, here's... Yeah, my wife happened to be running stills for me, and I did the video. So, this is totally not good audio. Let me see if I can find something that's a little bit better. Okay, this is just at an event. Just background event. Let's say I wanted to use that. One of my favorite buttons in the interface is under Special. Okay. In Casablanca language, a scene is video, and a sample is an audio element. Okay. There's a button, and it's on everybody's system here. It's called Scene to Sample. So it strips off the soundtrack and sends it over to the audio mix window. So when I click OK, see how it says horn? There's horn. So if I go and videotape a school event, if I'm in the classroom, if I'm at the county fair, maybe it's the mariachi band, what I will do, in addition to getting lots of good close-ups and such, is get what a professional would call wild track audio. So I will just let the camera roll for a couple minutes at a particular event and get a continuous soundtrack underneath. Because as you know, if I'm editing close-ups and wide shots in between, the audio is going to be juxtaposed between all these different times. Then I come back and I'll lay in a soundtrack, and as long as I'm not lip-syncing a singer, it all comes off really smooth, and it sounds like you really just put it all together.
Just a quick thing, what I've done too is, the end of a wedding, I got my picture on one side and was scrolling credits coming up, and I put all my, funny cuts off to one side. And then I just do what he did with the audio, throw it in there, and then throw it underneath that. And then while those credits are coming up, you have all the funny stuff going on at the same time. So, yeah, the outtakes, yeah. So.
Okay. Other questions? Audio mix. Okay, audio. So first we want to talk about getting sounds in. So that was a nice lead-in into our questions about how to use strip-off soundtrack. It can be a narration, could be a voiceover, could be the natural sound you want to bring it over. Okay? Hopefully you're all aware as well with the newer Casablancas that have the DVD burner. You also have the capacity to bring in music off of a CD. And it's regular WAV files, so tunes you download on one of the legal downloading sites and save them as a WAV file. Regular CD audio, for example, iTunes, you bring them in, and royalty-free music. That other kind of music that you may own that you don't want to use in your paid-for videos. And once you display the CD contents, you have the capability then to download them into the rest of your system. Now you'll see the changes on Smart Edit 6. Did I put that in? Smart Edit 6 also allows you to download WAV files in addition. MP3 files in addition to WAV files. So. You can get a lot more data onto the DVD.
Quick question about your project you showed about the soccer game.
Uh-huh.
You did the edit to the beat method.
Yes.
There's a couple of different ways that can be done. Which method did you use?
Let me show you. Thank you. My CD.
Before you do that, Chet, on this screen here, is there any way to play out more than just the first 3 seconds?
And Smart Edit 6.
Really?
No, seriously. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, you have a choice between 5, 10, and 20.
Oh, really? Good, yeah, because sometimes
Yeah.
3 is not enough.
No, I agree.
So you have to import in there.
I'm having some fun right now. So what tech support would say is to shut down your machine. Okay? And if you ever do shut down any electronic component, leave it off for at least 10 seconds. Okay? It lets all the electricity drain from the capacitors. And so you avoid having some electricity going out and more electricity coming back in. And then you can reconnect, reboot. See, I just used that opportunity to share that with you.
That makes me feel so good.
We use that scene thing for correcting some lip sync problems. So you separated the sound from the video thing.
Right. Yeah, there's remind me to show you the max volume, too. If you do interviews, It's worth its weight in gold. It's part of Audio Effects Pack. It will essentially normalize all audio tracks. Like if you did interviews, there was a project I interviewed 9 different people at my son's school, and I was very careful. Used a professional grade wired lavalier mic, XLR inputs, did test recordings, and yet because of the tonal qualities, different people sound differently, and they're slightly different in terms of speaking. Max Volume, which is part of Audio Effects, took all those separate interviews and raised them all up to the highest gain possible without distortion. And when I played it back, it was as somebody was writing gain through a whole series of 9 different interviews. It was like...
What is that?
Max Volume.
It's like a compressor limiter.
More or less, yeah. It's
only volume, it doesn't change tone.
Yeah, yes, just the volume. It's people that use it for, if you do lots of interviews, seriously consider that. There's a couple of other things. That's something that a lot of people say who do a lot of work with our system. The audio area is one that we've had some needs in, and Audio Effects Pack addresses many of those. So.
Would that take 2 people side by side, one with a strong voice and one with a weak voice, and straighten them out?
To a degree.
It would help.
Yeah, I mean, if it's mic'd well to begin with, it will give you a much better quality result. It's kind of the difference is, you know what I mean, if they were way off mic to begin with, it's going to help, but you also bring up noise and everything else. So I would say to me, it's a professional grade tool that I took great advantage in using, but it's not a magic wand that's going to cure those.
Get rid of a little bit of static.
Well, we have a band pass and band stop filter that I'm going to show you that will do some of that.
I know you can't really do anything with it. Actually
It works on narration music as well?
Yes. Yeah, it's not particularly designed for that. I wouldn't use it a lot for a lot of situations, but for some. All right, so let's say basic music. I've taken the liberty of recording a whole bunch of music in. Now, when my music comes in, it looks like this. It'll say A2, A3 for audio 2, audio 3, and that's just...
A wonderful day at the aquarium.
Okay, so we have... now, most of the time, when I'm intelligent, I go back and I will name that to me, that's a narration clip, okay? And there's some Bionicle music. There's some sound effects. So really what I should have done here, if I was really on the ball that day, okay, that tells me right now that that's a sound effects element, okay? And sometimes, again, when I'm on the ball, I do M for music. So I can look really quickly and have my bin organized. And you can do the same thing we did in the video bin in terms of delete and undelete. There's delete. I want to put this with my other music up here. Undelete. So you can organize all your clips and put them all in the same piece together. Okay. You can record narration as well by coming out of an audio mixer, or when you're on the road and you just have no mixer with you, you can use your video camera as essentially a line level mixer and plug a mic in there, or just use the built-in camera mic and take the AV outputs of your camera and come right into the audio in on your Casablanca and click record to get your nice little, narration clip. I know I've got narration for the aquarium here somewhere. Arizona. I am going to come back to the cutting music to the beat. There we go, Sea Life.
In the coral gardens with all their grandeur.
Hey, a little bit of overmodulation here.
In the coral gardens with all their...
Now, see how when I click playback, the clip goes a little bit. There's a little bit of dead space. Okay. If you need to trim that out, you can click on trim and just scroll in. Two things I will be cautious of, though. Be careful about going right up against the edge. Okay. There's something called presence, and not what you get on Christmas, but Presence, and that's the fact that audio comes with it kind of a natural environmental sound. Thank you. And when you start cutting so judiciously, you start to lose some of the natural feel of audio. So it's good to leave a little bit extra. And I would recommend that you always give yourself a 1 second bit of clean audio before and after every narration clip. And I'm going to show you why. So I'm going to give let's go ahead and scroll in. About 107, so about. Okay, so that's 1 second before.
Thing has motion, and yet it's free.
Oh. Okay, so let's give myself to 16 seconds here. So that gives me a second before and after.
The scene where everything has motion.
That's all I have. I'm 5 frames short. Okay, so there's my clip. Now, I could go into special if I wanted to and drop the volume down a little bit right here. Okay, this is on your regular...
I can see that in the coral gardens with all their...
So I might want to bring the...
In the coral gardens with all their grand...
Okay, now anytime you do a special to audio as well, it copies it.
In the coral gardens with all...
Now what I can do is I come over to my audio mix menu here. First of all, I should decide how long it is. Now where do I know, how can I find out how long my video is?
Oh, going to the eye right there.
Okay. Okay, 46 seconds long, so plenty long. Let's say I want the narration to start right with this 3rd frame here. Let's see if it's long enough. From this point back, the remaining time is 30 seconds, and my narration was, well, like 16 seconds, so plenty of time. So let's go ahead and, with that scene selected, I can come down to any one of the 5 remaining tracks. The first track is dedicated to your camera audio, whatever came in, your NAT sound or your sound on tape. I'm going to add my narration track on this line here.
That locks it into the frame, didn't it?
Correct. Well, it begins, beginning with this scene. The scenes transition first, and then it rolls in. Okay, which is a commonly asked question. Well, what if I want that audio element to start part way in and not right at the head of the clip? Okay, that's the range button. Okay, and this is a classic error right here. Okay, people. Oh, okay. The School of Hard Knocks. We've done like, okay, gee, I want it to start there, but what I've done is I've trimmed that clip because it asked me to trim it, or I told it to trim. So instead, I gotta now let's untrim it. So I'm changing the length. Thank you. Did everybody get the chance to sign in on the email list here? Oh, sorry. Thank you. I like to fly Southwest sometimes. So you all are in the B boarding group. Okay. Okay. Never mind. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the position. Okay, I'm crazy, but I'm safe because I know I'm crazy. So what you're doing is this whole dark space is the entire storyboard, and this clip is your narration clip or the audio element we're putting in there relative to the rest of the scene. So I'm going to scoot it over. So now I've moved it in so it begins not at the very, very beginning of the scene. So you can do that while visually, if you want it to start right at a visual cue, you can see what you got going on. Okay? Comments, questions, answers. Okay? Then I want to come back and I want to put a music track in here. Let's do, got a whole bunch of music. Nah, it doesn't work. How about funky? No. I was thinking of something like a little bit more like mellowed out here. Something that's oh, aquarium. Music for the aquarium. Perfect. The fish gently swaying in the kelp forest. Welcome to the movie at midnight. Okay. All right. So now we've got our... Now this song runs the full length, okay? But it runs into black. And let's say I only wanted it to end at the last video clip. We'd again go to the range button. But this time we want the trim because I'm shortening the song. And I want it to end right at that last good frame of video. Okay, so now that song ends right there. Okay? Now, I want my music not to begin and end abruptly, but rather fade in and out. Okay? So with that audio element selected, and it turns a different color, you will also know you have an audio element selected when it appears in the bottom left corner. Okay? And I want to fade this clip in and out. And you will actually see the ramp up, and at the end, a fade out. Now the size or the severity of that ramp is relative to the clip. Because it's a 1 second, that's about 1/6 or 1/7 of that clip. So, whereas over here, it looks like it's longer, but that crossfade is a full 1 second. So the music's fading in during that whole time. Okay. Now, you saw the yellow line a moment ago? That's unrendered, uncreated. Okay? You notice I clicked on Create, and now it rendered. The yellow turns blue, but we have something going on here. It's a big red flag. That's a nasty red line. Okay? Thou shalt not finish your project with nasty red lines, because you will likely affect the success of a DVD burn. Okay? Back in the day, it was like, okay, if you can't hear it, it's overmodulated, the equipment's real particular. Just let it go. Okay? When we got into DVD authoring, overmodulated audio can actually affect the quality of your video data and the success of a DVD burn. Okay? In fact, I had a couple of customers who I've talked with over the years, and they say, my DVD, here's a problem, I'm checking everything else. I say, go back to your audio mix window. Scroll through it and tell me if you see any red lines. Yeah, there's one there. Okay? Go in there and reduce the volume, played it out, successful DVD burn. Okay? So, why are we getting a red line? Because overmodulation is essentially, I've got this music playing here, and I have this original background clip. Well, that's distorted by itself. Okay? And either one of them by themselves is fine. But when you put the two of them together, okay, it's like taking 2 measuring cups, 8 ounces of water and 8 ounces of Pepsi, and trying to pour both of them into an 8-ounce glass. They're not going to fit. So I have to adjust them so that they will That's a nice analogy. I like that. So, you know, anyway, all right. Let's say, okay, so I could simply lower the volume of a clip by clicking on that clip, and this is a button called volume. So you will see how that dark line came down? So that's the relative volume level. It gives me a little visual indicator. Then I can create and see if it's... So now I brought that down far enough. If I've just got to have that nat sound, I can still keep it up. Okay? But in this case, I don't want it. So I can mute it. Okay? By muting it, I take it entirely away. In fact, let's give you a preview for one of the cool audio power key commands. Let's say I want all the audio all the way across there to be muted, subtracted, silent. Here's how you do it with Power Key software. Okay? Power Key gives you keyboard commands for every on-screen menu button. I'm pressing down F2, function key F2. I want to mute the first volume level. See how the first one's muted? Then I press Control E for equalize. Control E. Watch what happens to the next one. See C Life 1 over there? Control E. I'm just going to hold down Control and E together. Watch this. Done. You could go on through 300 clips.
And without that keyboard, why you have to do them individually?
It doesn't require the keyboard, although the keyboard is a very attractive macro system coloring with the fine silkscreen logo. Okay, that's another reason to have it. Yes. The Power Key software is what enables your keyboard to activate that. Yeah, without that, I'll show you another way.
So does Control E just repeat any function you do?
That's any volume level. Yeah, so if I set that at maybe minus 12 dB, it would copy minus 12 dB to all of that in that particular...
If you want to dissolve over it to be a different...
Yes. Yes. We're getting to that, but yeah.
Back on the overmodulation, red line.
Yes.
Does that happen any time there's two-track, the camera track plus one other audio track? Can you tell us when it happens?
Is it measuring dB, total dB? Or?
Yeah, but it's a sum. Yeah, it's a sum of all the elements together. So it's not necessarily. It would depend. That particular recording, I was in the Monterey Bay Aquarium, and there was a whole bunch of children like right around me, and so the audio was extreme. That was back on a camera. I didn't have manual control of the volume level, so it was just. I mean, that was just almost anything I would have added to that would be distorted. Another event, you may not. Like you noticed in many of the other scenes there was no distortion. It was just the background level of a quiet aquarium. So there's no finite answer other than if it's a piece of video that has with it a high volume or high intensity audio, like at a game, at a loud public place, band concert, stuff like that, where you've got an intense level of audio, you're very likely to get that kind of an issue. You're welcome. Okay, everybody cool with what we're doing so far here? Okay, so we just...
Yeah. But I like I've run